Hey mech warriors, welcome to Bad Ben's Battle Mechs. I'm Bad Ben, and today I want to show off this nice spreadsheet I made for the Chaos campaign as laid out in the new Hot Spots Hinterlands book. Yeah, this is just to help calculate all the costs of all the stuff that may come up kind of in between tracks, right? I need to start with some disclaimers though. So, first of all, this is the classic Battletech version of this campaign calculator. There is an Alpha Strike version of this as well, and it is different. So, if you would rather have the Alpha Strike one, I'll leave a link in the description for that video where you can download that spreadsheet. If you're playing Classic, then you might want to download this one, which I will leave a link to here in the description to a Google Drive, and you can download it there. You will need a program to run it, but you don't necessarily need Excel, which you'll have to pay for. You can also use LibreOffice Calc. I'll leave a link in the description for LibreOffice Calc, where you can download that. It's a free program, and it'll run this exactly the same. So do that if you want. Another disclaimer, I have designed this like I said, according to Hot Spots Hinterlands, which leads me to believe that the most tracks that you play per month are 2. So this is designed around the idea that you play 2 tracks per month, and you'll see why later. Another disclaimer: this is just a calculator. This calculates the numbers that you put in, but it doesn't run your campaign for you. So you have to change things when you want them changed. It doesn't know what your contract is. You have to put that in yourself. Another disclaimer: I don't know how big your mercenary unit might get. For example, I've put scale here up to 20. 20 seems like a big mercenary unit. That seems like a long time. There is place for you to write 1,500 months. That's over 100 years. There is place for 12 pieces of salvage. Not necessarily only 12. You could, combine some. I don't know how much salvage you might get, and I don't know how big your force is going to get. For example, there are places to record your forces. There are 10 spots here. Okay, with 6 spots each, in case you want to do lances or stars or Comstar level 2s, right? And each one is a force. But I don't know how big it's going to get. So that's the next disclaimer. Another disclaimer: there are possible rounding errors that you might come into. A lot of the calculations, you have to divide numbers and you'll be left with fractions, and they don't necessarily tell you how to round them. So I round them normally, and that can come to when you have 2 numbers that should be the same. If you have 50% something and one number is 601 and the other is 599, that's what a rounding error looks like. It's really not a really big deal. All right, so those are the disclaimers. Now we can get into the nitty gritty. I'll go over all of the different things really quickly here and then in more detail. So here is just main things about your company and your supply points, reputation, blah, 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 blah. Here's all of your costs. Here's all of your income. This is the main contract table. Things here that you change here. Change there. Another disclaimer. Sorry. Last disclaimer, and then we'll really get into it. I have saved this with calculation options set to manual. That means you have to press F9 to calculate. You don't have to keep it on manual. If you want to change it, all you have to do is come formulas, calculation options, go to automatic. Don't choose that middle one. I don't know what that does. If you do automatic, then everything changes automatically. See, that number changed from 500 to 1,000. So yeah, the only reason that I do that is really for this contract generation table over here. I'll get into that later. For now, I'll keep it on automatic, but when you download it, it might be set on manual. It might not be set on manual. It's really up to you. You go change it how you want. Anyways, we'll get into that later. So, yes, I did all that. This is the main contract table. When you change things here, it changes things over here. This is just a reminder, F9 to calculate, if it's set on manual. Here's your total income, total cost, and the balance, right? This is a sheet where you can record your balance. Any number that you put in here, 500, right, gets added automatically to there. Unless it's set to manual, in which case you have to press F9. Like I said, I'm going over that too much, I know. Just press F9, calculates it, right? Next part. Here you have a place for hire mech warriors. You could hire 10 mech warriors. Actually, I should get rid of that. I'll just leave it as is. Hire merc, you just put a number in here, actually. Here's a place for buying new units. This is the thing for your salvage, where you get to decide whether you keep it or not. Here is where you keep all your forces and all the things that you can do with your forces. This little thing just says, are you on a hiring hall or not? I'll talk about that later. This thing is a contract generation table. It updates every time you press F9, and it'll give you a new contract. This little table down here is just a static table that tells you the tracks. I can't calculate which tracks you're on, so there's just the table. Okay, so that's all the parts. We'll get into it. Here, company name. You can really just name it anything. Bad Ben's Boys, whatever. Here's your supply points. That gets updated, as I said, when you put your monthly balance. Here, my monthly balance this month, as it's set up right now, would be minus 500. So I'll put in minus 500 here. Also, you can't copy and paste. Like, you can't copy this number and paste that. It's not going to copy minus 500. It's going to copy equals E19 minus E20. And that is not what you want that to say. So you have to write in here. You can also write in any event, like you did a track or traveled, and just the date, right? And you can just put in month 1. Oh, it's set to, oh yeah, okay, whatever. It's set as a date format, so whatever you put in, what would it be? 1/01. What's the 3051? No, that doesn't. It. I gotta change this. Give me a second. Okay. So yeah, that's fixed. Now you can really write whatever you want in here, and it's not going to try to turn it into a date or anything. If you write something like January 3052, then it will change it into a date, right? If you don't want it in date format, then just like that or whatever. Anyways, spend too much time on that. Anyways, so coming over to the main contract, these are all just blank cells for you to write whatever you want in there, right? What's the name of the contract? The primary terrain, I'm not calculating what kind of terrain. That's far too complicated. There's so many planets. Some have stated terrain, some don't. There's no way to do all that. Anyways, type of mission, write whatever you want in there. None of this stuff is really important for the contract, even the length of the contract, right? It might be a 3-month contract, so just write a 3 in there if you want. That's really just for your own record keeping. Employer as well, there's a million different people who might be your employers, so write it in there if you so choose. This is the stuff that actually changes things. This, I'm going to set it to automatic so everything just updates. I don't have to keep pressing F9 all the time. Right? Oh, get rid of that. Base pay. Oh, I didn't go over this, actually. This is more important. Here's your supply points. Obviously, I kind of explained that, put the numbers in here. Reputation. This is just blank. You can just put any number you want in there. If your reputation is 3, that's just for keeping track of your reputation, right? It doesn't come into the calculation at all. Scale. Scale does come into the calculations. When I change scale, costs go up, but also things like base pay go up, right? So set that to whatever scale you are on at the moment. This is how much battle value per track you are allowed to take. This is how much battlefield support per track you are allowed to take. In this field, you can write down how much battle value you are actually going to use. So let's say I'm only going to use 2860 battle value, right? And as for the rules in the book, it tells you that any unused battle value can be transferred at a rate of 20 to 1, I believe. Divided by 20, you get as extra battlefield support points, right? So this just does that calculation for you. But that number, no matter how low this number is, this number will never be higher than this number, right? But those change also according to what scale you're on. See? So come down here, then we have maintenance costs. That's just your general costs that scale with every month, right? Now it's 1,000. Combat pay, just write in your combat pay. No, what am I? I'm skipping way ahead. Repair, heal, rearm. This is the cost for all of your repairs, and that is altered by how much support you get, right? If you get 60% support, right now I have 0 repair costs, but let's just say that this Viper here needs repairs. It needs armor repairs. It's going to do the calculations. It's going to put what you have to pay, and here is what they're going to be covering, right? Mercenaries, this is kind of a silly one. This is really just looking at this. So if you want to buy a mercenary, just put in the cost of whatever the mercenary is, and that just comes here. The reason I have to chop these up into all the different costs, because different costs are altered by different, things in your contract, so on and so forth, right? So mercenaries, if you want to buy a mercenary, just put in the cost of the mercenary up there, and it comes down here. Training, this covers costs of upgrading your gunnery or your piloting, right? But also covers the cost of formation creation. So if I want to create a formation, it's going to cost me that, and that goes into your training costs as well. We'll get into that a little later. Transport costs, that's obviously covered by here. I've written in, here is number of jumps. So I got to explain this. There's 2 different ways to calculate your costs for your transportation in Hot Spots Hinterlands. One is just say it costs 300 support points regardless of where you're going. The other one is it costs 50 support points per jump plus 50. And that is the system that I put in here. So you can put in the number of jumps that you have, and it calculates your cost. The transportation cost comes here. If you just want to stick with the standard 300, put that on 5. That's 300. That's altered with scale as well, right? So it's going to be 600 if you're at scale 2. Doodly-doo, hiring and buying. So this has to do with buying units here and hiring your mech warriors here. Okay. Leftover salvage, that has to do with what you have left to pay on any salvage that you might take. Other costs, this is just a blank thing. You can write any number in here if there's anything I've missed, right? So you could just write a 500 because who knows? For whatever other reason. Base pay, this is your base pay. This is changed by how much your base pay is, as you can see. Combat pay is also just another blank thing where you're just write in whatever your combat pay is here. I don't know what your combat pay might be, and I'm not going to make a list with all the possible values that it might be. So just write it in there, right? Exchanged salvage, that's money that you're getting back from not keeping salvage. Sold mechs, that's pretty straightforward. If you sell one of your mechs, then it goes into your income, right? And then there's another blank for other income. You can write in any number in there, and it just gets added to your total income here, right? Pretty self-explanatory. Here, I explain all that. You put your balance in here, 500. It gets added directly to your supply points, and it's cumulative. So if the next month I have minus 500, it goes back down, right? And then the next month I get 250. And so it'll just keep track if you just every month write in here. And I don't know if I mentioned that there's room for 1,500 months, which I hope is enough. If it isn't, tell me. Okay. So yeah, you have the contract. This is all just for your record keeping, as I said. Base pay, pretty self-explanatory. You put it in. Straight support, put in whatever the value is. I think I've put in all the values that are possible. Here it will tell you how much is covered by that. So I already kind of showed that, right? This guy needs armor repairs. Say this guy is destroyed. You know there's a difference between destroyed and truly destroyed. So, and depending on my support covered, they will cover a percentage of that. And the leftover will go into here. Battle support. This one is a little tricky. You don't explain it, but I'm pretty sure I figured it out. And I'll go over this right now. So first of all, if you have any battle support whatsoever, the rules say that you have automatically 100% straight support. But this program doesn't know that. So if you do have battle support and you have 30%, make sure you also put your straight support to 100, right? Okay, so battle support. This is going to cover the costs of replacing any units that are destroyed. And by destroyed, I mean truly destroyed. There is a difference. Go read about it in the book. So let's say that my Viper is destroyed. So I come over here. Yes, it is destroyed. That's what it's worth. That's literally just the battle value, right? Now, if I have 30% battle support coverage, they will pay me 30% of that value, right? But not just pay it to me. They don't just give it to you as money. They give it to you to buy another unit to replace this unit, right? So let's say I want to buy who knows what, and it costs $15.90 to replace this Viper that just got destroyed, right? Battle value, just put it here. You can put in whatever it is. Who knows? Maybe it's another Thunderbolt, right? So that's how much the unit costs to buy. This is how much they're going to cover of it. And that's how much is covered, 597 to replace your unit, meaning you're only left paying $993. If you had 100%, obviously you have to pay nothing, and they're going to pay that whole the whole cost. And you can see it's showing how much it's going to cover. So I can buy something up to 1989, and they'll cover 100% of that cost. But if I buy a more expensive mech, let's say I buy a 2500 battle value mech, right? I still have some left over to pay because they're only paying 100% of this thing's value. Okay? So that's how that battle coverage, battle support works. You're not just getting money for your destroyed unit, you're getting money to replace it with another unit. At least that's how I've interpreted, and other people have confirmed that. All right. So, transportation, this is pretty easy. These are the possible transportation costs. And see here, they're going to cover 75% of it. If they covered 100% of it, obviously I would pay 0. Easy peasy. Here you put in your number of jumps, like I said. If you just want to go with it's 300 by scale to go anywhere, just leave that at 5. If you actually want to calculate the number of jumps, that's easy enough. So it's only 3, then it's only going to cost you 200, right? Easy enough. This shows you how much of the transport is covered. If I have 50%, then they cover half of it. Salvage rights, pretty basic. These are all the different possibilities as well as exchange, right? And that will, I'll go over that when I go over this salvage table here. Here, command rights independent. This really doesn't change anything with the calculation. It's just record keeping. Number of tracks as well, right? You could just write how many tracks in this contract if you feel like it. It's not all that important. All right. So yes, here, hire mech warrior. Number of mech warriors, they cost 100 each, right? But there's also mercenaries. And in that case, you'll want to actually just write the cost of that mercenary right in here. Like I said. The battle value, you want to buy any unit, just write the battle value in here, 700 and, well, that's a very expensive mech. No, like 2001 battle value. And that actually just gets, that's the buying cost of the mech, right? So just put it in here. But if you do put it in here, then it will get changed with this battle coverage, right? Like I just explained. All right. Salvage table. This is actually pretty easy. You just put in the battle value of any mechs you salvage, right? So 2,600, that's an expensive one, maybe 1,650, whatever. Here's the sell price. It says sell price because that's what salvage is valued at. Salvage is valued at your sell price. Here, you just decide if you're going to keep or exchange it, right? And this is all covered by your salvage rights. So right now, if I exchange it, I don't get anything for exchanging it. Actually, no. See, this is one way that this thing also would let you cheat. If you have 0% salvage rights, you're not allowed to keep any of this, right? You have to exchange everything and you get nothing for it. If you have any percentage, you get 40%, right? You can decide which ones you're going to keep, and then it will calculate the leftover to pay, what you have left to pay. And so if I keep this one, exchange those, don't get too confused. You say, why would I have to anything left over to pay? Isn't it covered by that? Yes, it is. That's the number that covers it. That number goes in here. This number goes in here. So it all balances out. It all equals out in the end. It's all self-explanatory. That's really all you have to do. Put in the battle value of the salvage, decide whether you want to keep it or exchange it. It will get calculated depending on your salvage rights. Oh, and there's also exchange. Exchange, I should explain that. I'll put in some more numbers. Right. Exchange, if you have exchange rights, then you only get 25% of its salvage value as SP, always. And it won't let you exchange, it won't let you keep it, right? You can do whatever you want, but it's not going, if this is set to exchange, it's always going to be 25% is what you're going to get. And that's going to go into your income. Okay. So that's how this salvage table works. Here, this is kind of the main thing where you keep all your forces and you can decide what to do with it. I've just put in a few units just for show. Here you need the name. It's actually important that you put a name in here, okay? It needs to know whether or not there is a unit in this force, and that's for changing formations and so on. So actually, I'll go over the force thing first. Here you can just call it like the donkeys or whatever. This is my donkey lance, the donkeys. Here you can choose if they have a formation. I've gone and found a whole bunch of formations, so you can just decide whatever it is. Here you can, if I don't have a formation, there are rules for the cost of making a formation, and it's 10 per unit. So it knows that there's 3 units. If there was a word here or just a letter, G, then it believes there are 4 units there, right? So that's how it calculates that. So you say, yes, I want to create a unit, and it'll cost you $30, and it will put into your calculator, right? And then you go and write the balance, and then don't forget, then afterwards to come and change it back to no. I don't want to create a unit the next month. There's also an option here to change, and that's a different cost. That is 5 per unit in the thing. So you can change what type of formation, and that only costs you half, right? And then don't forget to change it back. So then here you can put in the name, like I said. Tonnage goes in here. That's important for repairs. Battle value goes in here. That's important for selling and destruction and so on. You can just put the name of the mech warrior in here. Gunnery skill, piloting skill, mech warrior wounds. So you can say how many wounds. You can only possibly have 4, because if you got 5, you'd be dead. So if you have 4 wounds, it doesn't, and you can say whether or not you want to heal the wound. It's always going to be 30, because you can only ever heal 1 wound box per month. So regardless of how many wounds he has, it'll cost 30 per month to heal a wound, right? And it's up to you to keep track. So if you've healed, if they do have 4 wounds and you heal 1, and then you record the costs, then, it's up to you. Make sure you come and change the amount of wounds they now have, right? It's not going to change it for you. Doodle-doo. Yeah, so that's whether you want to heal it. That's the cost. This is repairs. You can come and say what kind of repairs you want to do. And that's... So there's 4 different types of repairs. If you just want to do armored, if you have structure, if there's crippled, or if the unit's destroyed. And there are rules for, that all in the book. Go and read those to understand the repairs. And you only ever have to pay the one with the highest repair necessaries, right? So you don't have to do your structure and your armor. but that's just the rules. You go and read about it there. And there is another one here, and you can put it in here, and it'll tell you the cost here. And there are 2 repairs, 1, 2, because it's possible for you to do 2 tracks a month, right? So that's why what I mean by I've based this on the idea that you will be doing 2 tracks per month. That's just the cost of the repairs here. Ammo refills. So this is by, I don't know how many. This will be your total ammo refills in a month. And I don't think that there are too many mechs that would have to chain to refill 20 ammo bins. I don't really know that. I hope there aren't too many mechs with, like, that would mean you have 10 ammo bins and you use them all in both tracks this month, right? So I can't imagine that you would need to change more than that, but there you go. Switch Omni, that's just a standard cost. You can switch it 1 time or 2 times, right? Because you can do up to 2 tracks a month. And so you would only ever want to change it 1 or 2 times a month. Here is for your improving your gunnery skill. So I would say, yes, I want to improve my gunnery skill. It's going to calculate the cost of that based on what my gunnery is currently. So it is now calculating the cost to change gunnery from a 3 to a 2. If I change that to a 2, the cost of that will go up. See? And if you want to do your piloting, that has the cost for the piloting. A little disclaimer in the book, Hot Spots Hinterlands, in the first printing, which is all that we have at the moment of recording this right now, the gunnery and piloting headers are switched. So it looks like gunnery costs what piloting does and piloting costs what gunnery does, but that's wrong. They've said that. So these are the proper costs. These are the right costs. And it's up to you then if you've paid, if you've said, yes, I want to improve, then to pay for that, minus 1,500 this month, which isn't very good, but then to manually go and change your gunnery, right? Once I've done it, it's not going to do it for you. I'm going to repeat that over and over. It's not going to change things. It just calculates them. So change that to no. Here it allows you to sell the mech, which is pretty easy. It just gives you the sell price for the mech. And here you can say whether or not the mech is destroyed or not. And that goes into the calculation for your battle support coverage, right? So that's all the different things you can do with your units. There's a whole bunch of different tables, so you can have a whole whack of different units. That's this part. Here is the contract generation table. Now, a little disclaimer about this contract generation table. This is the contract generation table specifically for the planet of Almotacen, which is the only planet that has a contract generation table in the book Hot Spots Hinterlands. Okay? So this isn't a generic contract generator that will give you every option possible. This is giving you the options possible on the planet of Almotacen. Okay? So for example, there are no options to get a retainer mission on Almotacen in the book. So you'll never roll a retainer mission here. I just need to say that. This is based specifically on this planet. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't know whether I am. So this is pretty self-explanatory. If you want to change it, press F9 and you get a new one, right? And for every new one that you get, and if you get a new one, you would most likely be on a hiring hall world. So click this to yes, and that will change. If you say, yes, I'm on a hiring hall world for this month, it'll change your maintenance costs to 100. And that is not changed by your scale. So if I am at scale 7, it doesn't matter. I'm still only paying 100 per month in maintenance costs to stay on Almotason. If you go read Hot Spots Hinterlands at the moment, the first printing, that's not what the book is going to say, but what the book says is an error. What I have said is how it works. If you're on a hiring hall world, your base costs are 100 flat, regardless of scale. So that's this. Contract generation table, yes. So it just generates this whole contract for you, mission type, contract length, your employer, your base pay, your straight support, blah, 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 all this stuff. And you can go and put it directly into here. But if you do, make sure you change your calculation option to manual. I'm pretty sure I already explained this. But if you don't, every time you put in, so if I put in my base pay to say 90, I can't remember if I already said this or not, then the whole contract is changed, right? So putting it on manual like that, you can then put in 80%, nothing's changed. You can go to your straight support, put that to 100%. Battle support is 10%, right? All that good stuff. Here is your opposing contract. So if you've read the book and how to generate contracts, each contract is generated with an opposing contract. So this contract is based on this contract. One little disclaimer thing. It's possible, and that maybe I can get it here. This is going to say number of tracks is a 0, and that's not a mistake. All right, let's see if we can get that. That is how the book works. You can possibly get a 0. Come on. It's rare. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. If this is a 0, this is going to be different. So as you can see here, they're both on the same planet. They both same number of jumps away because I'm assuming you're both. This is the number of jumps to this planet from the planet of Almotason. Since you can only get these contracts on Almotason, this is the number of jumps to that planet. And I'm assuming that both of you are on that planet. All right? If this is these are always going to be the same, so number of jumps is always going to be the same, and number of tracks is always going to be the same for both. Unless this is a 0. And no matter what there's a 0. Here, we got one. So as you can see, according to the rules, if this primary contract rolls 0 tracks in there for their contract, this person rolls their contract separately. So this is no longer an opposing contract to this one. This is kind of like its own single contract. And then they explain in the book that this person, since they're not playing any tracks for the next 6 months, they'll go and play the tracks against this with just some randomly rolled house. Anyways, that's how that works. Okay? Also, it is also possible that this guy rolls a 0 and this one is also 0. In which case, both of you have no tracks and you just get paid for the next months, right? But that's just how the book works. That's just the rules. So, this is just a static track table. This tells you if you're doing a raid, roll 1d6 here, right? And then if you roll 1, then you play the pushback track. Then you go into the book, you see what the pushback track says, and you play that, right? I can't tell you which track. You just got to roll it each time because you have to roll it after you've played one You have to re-roll the next track after you've played one track, so it's impossible for me to know which track it should be. So just roll it yourself. Yeah. And that's what that is. So I think I've explained everything I want to explain, I hope. Gonna set all this stuff back to 0. When you get this, when you download it, all of this stuff will be set to 0. Right? Number of jumps too. And you can use it as you like. If you do download this and you do use it, then and you find any kind of mistakes, any bugs, anything I've missed, write me, tell me. I can update this thing. I can change it in the future. It would be great if people would tell me if they find anything wrong with it. Okay, so I guess that just brings me to the end of this video. Download it and use it if you want to, or don't if you don't. Just do it by hand if you feel like it. No big deal. It's free to use. Enjoy it however you want. All right. So that brings me back. That brings me to the end of this video. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. See you next time. Bye-bye.